Words matter, especially in your 20s. Guess how many career idioms and phrases I internalized in my 20s? 80%. Now I'm in my 30s, guess what percentage turned out to be true? I would say about 20% of every bit of wisdom I consumed about careers in my 20s turned out to be true. I'm going to give you 3 examples in this video, but boy, could I continue. If you have not been here before, my name is Lena Norms and I have a channel talking about lots of different things. Particularly, I like talking about how to succeed in your 20s without the bullshit. There is a series called the 20s Toolkit up here waiting for you once you've finished this video. If that kind of chat sounds useful to you, I'd love it if you subscribed. And if you're wondering, did I kill an oversized duckbill platypus and hide it behind this sheet so you wouldn't know that I'm a murderer? Let's say for the argument's sake, the answer is yes. The first tidbit of wisdom I consumed in my 20s and internalized to be true was the devil is in the details. I'd hear this around the office all the time in my first few office jobs. And while yes, a project can fall down if some of the minor details aren't really looked into, broadly, I'd say this is quite a sus concept in its essence. And it's okay because history confirms this. The phrase the devil is in the details is actually a bastardized version of something that our mate Ludwig, who was a famous German architect, said. He said, God is in the details. Very different, and many have interpreted that to mean the Almighty will look after the details, God is in every small thing that you make, or maybe, you know, supremacy is in the polish. Regardless, he is also quoted as saying less is more, which is kind of the opposite of how I started applying this phrase. More is more. Do everything all the time. All the details have to be completed before the project moves forward, and by God, was that not true? When it comes to me, I really found that done was always better than perfect, and handing in a piece of work that maybe didn't have every detailed polished but was on time, fit the brief, and showed what I could do given more time or resources, well, that was so much better. Also, giving up my love of this phrase made me realize that not all details of my life have to be perfect for me to have a pretty decent life that I'm quite happy living. If the devil is in the details, I am not interested in visiting. Maybe it's supposed to be a warning, like the devil's in the details, don't go there. I mean, obviously, if you're like health secretary and you're managing a pandemic, maybe precision is what you need, but this isn't a received wisdom that applies to every career or every person. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. A phrase usually used to imply that if somebody takes away your basic resources, you should be able to pull yourself up and proceed anyway. What was really funny is this phrase was actually intended as a bit of a vintage historical joke. 1834 is its earliest published reference, and it's about this guy called Nimrod who is doing something that is, in their eyes, clearly impossible. He claims to have discovered perpetual motion, which, you know, actually arguably was a thing eventually in the future. The mobile advertiser heard about this and was laughing about that particular possibility of a discovery by saying, presumably, this guy can prove it by crossing a river or jumping over a fence merely with his bootstraps. The imagery that is used here is supposed to be ludicrous. It's supposed to be not something that's like, oh, I'm a self-made man. It's supposed to be you're setting yourself an impossible task. In fact, they think this picture is depicting it. In 1863, Bryson Statton's Country House Bookkeeping said, the person competent to construct a system of philosophy on such a basis would be able to show how a man might lift himself by his own bootstraps or get rich by taking money from one pocket and putting it in the other. I'm not saying that people haven't made great careers or created great things with very little resources. What I am saying is people punishing you or expecting the same from you even when they give you less does not a smart business person make, or a very nice one. And I think we expect this of ourselves. We rarely adjust our expectations when our energy resources or our financial resources or our emotional resources have been depleted for a very specific reason. We rarely allow ourselves to reduce our expectations a little bit, maybe even for a short period of time, because we think we should be pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps. I'd love to hear examples of that in your own life, because I bet you probably have some really interesting ones. Please leave them in the comments below, but I can think of a myriad of ways this can be misapplied and how much we could gain from letting it go. A jack of all trades is a master of none. The rod that I used to beat myself with every time I moved on to a different hobby, project, job, or skill. There was a period of my 20s where I moved jobs every year, something that widened my skill set, it widened my network, my friendship group, and also, incidentally, increased my wages. However, I was constantly worried that doing this was the wrong thing to do because honing a skill was the thing you're supposed to do with a career. I was a jack of all trades. What a shame. What a disappointment. Would I ever be good at anything? Well, turns out that phrase, not complete. The whole phrase is, a jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one. From what I can find, apparently the phrase originated in the 14th century and it was often applied to people who worked around the theatre. They could remember lines, fix costumes, design sets. Somebody who, it sounds like, was interested in the outcome rather than the individual jobs required to achieve that outcome. Arguably, this could have been applied to William Shakespeare himself. But when it comes to applying it to modern careers and modern jobs, because for better or worse, a lot of the world has moved away from an apprenticeship, single skill job model, what we see as disparate skills that don't link together often come together in one career that you slowly get better at. The silly things I do within this square, which is apparently a job, directly apply to that, but I can think of hundreds of other ways that applies to other people's careers. Especially if you're not in a big corporation or you don't want to be working in a big corporation, being in a small operation of maybe a few people who have lots and lots of different skills, being a jack of all trades and being able to operate on a smaller scale in smaller communities in local skilled environments, I would argue is pretty future resilient, and often I think the way the direction the world is going, for better or for ill, who can say. But beating myself up for being a jack of all trades, or a Jackie of all trades, only wasted time and energy I could have been putting towards following all the different things that made me curious and excited as I went through my 20s and heard about all these different skills and interests and facts about the wide world out there. What is some career advice that you don't plan to or did not follow in your 20s? I would love to hear below. This video has been made possible by the Gumption Club, who tip me per video to make sure these videos keep happening. How nice of them. That's why they are free. That's why they're here for you. If you're looking for what to watch next, can I recommend any of these related videos? Thank you so much for watching. Frog Snug out.